So yeah, thanks everyone for joining today's webinar, in where we'll be exploring if volunteer impact is the right software for your volunteer organisation. So just a little introduction from your co-hosts today, in which I'm also accompanied by the lovely Vanessa Thede of Natural History Museum. And you'll find out a little bit more about Vanessa's journey shortly afterwards. But I'll start off with the little intro. So I'm Daniel Green. I am the software sales advisor for Better Impact, supporting small to enterprise sized organisations across UK, Europe and Africa, or exploring our software solutions. You could probably tell from my accent already, but I'm born and raised in Essex, UK. Spent most of my career in sales and just really having a passion for helping and supporting people to achieve their goals. I'll pass it over to you quickly, Vanessa, to introduce yourself. Okay.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for having me as well. I'm really delighted to be here to be able to share a little bit about our journey as well, in case it helps any of you to understand a little bit more about what you're thinking to do in the future. I'm the Volunteer and Apprenticeship Strategy Manager at the Natural History Museum, so I have two roles within my head as well, so not just more volunteering and managing student placements and work experience as well, but I also manage apprenticeships and early careers as well at the Natural History Museum. I'm also, as it says on the screen here, Vice Chair for the Heritage Volunteering Group, which is there and designed to actually help support volunteer managers and those managing and looking after volunteers across the heritage sector as well. I've worked in volunteer management for the last 17 years. That's both here in the UK and internationally. So we've got quite a variety of experience and in different sectors, not just the heritage sector as well. And as some of you will already be aware of, the Investing in Volunteers accreditation, been heavily involved in several organisations in having that achieve that for their organisations as well. You'll probably tell, if you haven't met me already, colleagues that are already on here that know me know that I've got lots of energy and enthusiasm. I get very passionate. I talk very quickly, so I'm using this opportunity to help to get myself ready, to slow myself down as well for our session this morning as well. But really love the whole idea of sharing, and which is why I love attending things like this as well, and love the opportunity to help people find solutions as well. So any question is never too small, more than happy to try and answer it for you. Thanks, Daniel.
Brilliant. Thanks, Vanessa. In regards to questions, yeah, we'll hold a short Q&A towards the end. So if you want to hold off for any questions, feel free. If you have got any questions, pop them into the chat for Vanessa, and she'll be happy to answer them as well, if she knows the answer, that is. Brilliant. Okay. So here's a quick list of some takeaways that you will all be gaining from today's webinar, such as common problems facing volunteer service teams. We'll have a quick program assessment combined of 3 questions. Why the right software tools matter. Vanessa's journey and tips to successfully finding software. We'll also have a high-level overview of volunteer impact and a few resources and a link to obtain your PDU certificate for attending today. So stick around, because I will be sharing that link for the PDU certificate towards the end. If some of you are not sure what PDU is, it's a professional development unit, sometimes referred to as a CEC, which is a continued education credit. So the problem versus the solution. Just some of the common problems faced by many organisations and volunteer programs. This could include things such as too much data entry, using disconnected tools to do your job. Maybe there's not enough time to lead and engage with your volunteers, or find affordable tools leadership will approve, or maybe it's insufficient security of your confidential volunteer data. Well, hopefully we have the answer, being that volunteer impact is a top-rated solution that many organisations utilise to overcome these challenges. Protecting your volunteers' data. So how can you tell if a VMS vendor prioritises data protection? One easy way to tell is to look for the ISO certification. So ISO 27001 is the world's best known standard for information security management systems. ISO certification means that the VMS vendor respects all the best practices and principles enshrined in this international standard. So having the actual certificate rather than simply following the guidelines is an important distinction, because it means the vendor has actually been audited by an independent body once a year to make sure the standards are being met. And you'll be pleased to know that we are one of them vendors with the ISO 27001 certification, and we are also Cyber Essentials certified. All right, we've got some question time now. So, like I say, 3 questions. Feel free to use the chat box to put in your answers. So question 1, which problem resonated with you the most from the last slide? Was it number 1, too much data entry? Number 2, using too many disconnected tools to do your job? Was it number 3, not enough time to lead and engage with your volunteers? Number 4, affordable tools, leadership that will approve? Or was it 5, insufficient security of your confidential data? So, yeah, feel free to put in the chat your answers. So Andrea's put number 3, also do duty management over 3 sites. Yeah, not enough time in the world. Ben Marsh, 4 and 2, and by all means, yeah, you can have more than one of them. It could be all of them, you never know. Mary's put 3, Celia's put 3, Caroline's put 3. Not enough time to lead and engage your volunteers seems to be the front runner there. How are you managing your volunteers currently? Number 1, spreadsheets. Number 2, VMS, which is a volunteer management software. Or number 3, something else. If it is number 2 or 3, feel free to put in what it is you're actually using. It'd be great for the extra feedback. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so we've got 1 and 3. Yep. It still gets me that so many organisations out there are still using spreadsheets, particularly in a world where, you know, we're governed by GDPR and handling of data. Yeah. Hence, we're here today, Better Impact, see if we can overcome that. And Karen.
A lot of volunteering though, Daniel, needs must, huh?
Exactly. Thank you, everyone. Right, question 3. In your opinion, what's most at risk if a change doesn't occur sooner rather than later? So is it number 1, volunteer turnover disengagement? Number 2, staff turnover disengagement? Number 3, wasted money? Number 4, damage to org or program's reputation? Or is it something else at number 5? So Ben Marsh has started off with number 1. And this is a common theme on this one, question 3. Normally number 1, volunteer turnover and disengagement as well, which is a big priority, obviously, in this sector. 1, 3 and 4, 3 and 5, all of the above. Thanks, Mary. And yeah, number 1, Lucia's put all as well. So why having the right tools for the job matter? So more than half of all employees are unhappy at work because of the software tools they're using. Have you ever become dissatisfied at work due to missing or mismatched software? Well, 51.95% says yes. Just to let you know, these stats have come from G2's 2019 State of Software Happiness Report. This is quite an alarming stat. So about 1 in every 8 employees has actually quit a job because of mismatched software as well. So let's get you working with the tools that make you feel less frustrated and rather more empowered and productive when you do your job. So now I'm going to pass you over to Vanessa, who achieved just that. There you go, Vanessa, over to you.
Thanks, Daniel.
And just let me know, obviously, when you want me to.
I will do. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you. I'm sure hopefully most of you know about the Natural History Museum. If you were like me as a child, you would have come up there maybe on school visits or something like that as well. But it's an amazing museum. Lots of Historic antiquities there as well, over 80 million objects, and only a fifth are on display. I'm sure with most of you, with some of your organisations, you might find the same thing as well. We've actually surpassed our number of visitors this year, in the fact that we've actually reached a new all-time high, so well exceeded the 5 million visitors. We do obviously have a lot of people to our website. Our most popular exhibition in the last couple of years has been Titanosaur. If any of you got to actually achieve to or see that online as well, we're seeing the giant dinosaur that was actually in sight. It's now been dismantled. It's now on its way to Japan, and we'll be having a new exhibition there soon as well, which I thoroughly recommend if you get the chance to come up there. Today, the museum is much more relevant. Obviously, lots of people are actually looking to the museum for guidance and advice as well. And also the fact was that it's because of the climate change, because of the planet, the love of the planet and everything else as well. David Attenborough is obviously one of our patrons as well. Obviously, a lot of people turn towards the museum as well. So we employ over 1,000 staff. We engage with 400 plus volunteers. That goes up and down in a variety of roles, all united by our vision of a future where people and planet thrive. And the key thing is our mission, which is when we engage with anybody within the museum and including volunteers, we want to create advocates for our planet so we can inspire millions to care about the natural world. Next slide, please, Daniel. So where did we begin with our volunteer impact journey? Was October 2020 is when we started implementing, as well as I'm sure most of you might have experienced the COVID and pandemic. It obviously slowed things down a little bit for us. And what solutions were we previously using? Now, one of the things I just want to put is a little bit of a caveat here. This is about systems and this is about processes and procedures. This is nothing to do with my predecessors, who were amazing in their role and did some amazing programs as well within this, in the museum as well. But this was really about systems. And I think the one thing that was very clear from the very beginning, that we'd been using our HR system, which is part of our other, to advertise roles and register volunteers. They were slightly separate. What we would advertise roles on and how we'd register volunteers was two slightly different systems as well. It wasn't designed to manage volunteers. It was a HR system. So the information was very not accessible except by HR, and therefore spreadsheets were being created locally where we had pockets of volunteers around the museum, and they were holding volunteers' personal contact information. The difficulty about that was a lot of the information was also collected on paper forms, which would then come back into HR. As I'm sure most of you who do use paper forms have appreciated, transcribing, it cannot always be accurate, especially if you can't read someone's writing. So therefore you can make errors as well. And plus the other thing is as well is the fact that from a perspective of keeping up to date when volunteers change their information, that wasn't necessarily coming back to HR. There was also no access to the training system unless you specifically had an NHM login. So therefore training was never recorded for some of those volunteers, which then meant we were reliant on the fact that this was what the process was and that you had trained your volunteers, which wasn't always the case, as we found out. And expenses were being processed on paper forms. Sure, we've all been there. Paper form, attach the receipts, send it in to whoever you need to send it into, and it gets processed as well. So that's where we were from that perspective. The challenges that we faced, especially, was the engagement of volunteers. COVID showed us that in 2019. We had 450 volunteers, emailed them all out. We had 190 bounce backs. It just showed you that the information coming back into HR to update us was not happening. And therefore, that obviously created a number of problems. So that was number one that obviously highlighted itself as well. In some areas, volunteering was well established, great programs, great activities for volunteers as well. In the others, it was very ad hoc and unstructured, unclear. And because there was no set process for registering, people might come in under visitor supervised access, or they might come in as student placements from someone that they knew from a university or something. So therefore, we had people in the museum who effectively were volunteers, but we didn't know that they were volunteers. So we were losing sight of who those people were. Like I said, there were some well-established programs, but we tended to be reactive rather than being proactive. We didn't have unique roles in each time. If any of you've got unions who worry about the fact that we're replacing a paid worker, that was obviously a very key aspect that they were really keen that I addressed when I got to the museum, and that was one of the things that we've now made that we've been able to do. But that obviously was a weakness at first that we didn't necessarily know. Volunteers might be with us for a long time, and their roles would change with the people that they'd be working with. So therefore, it could be very difficult to know exactly what they were then doing. So our systems weren't designed to manage volunteers, as it says here. Paper forms, absolute nightmare in trying to manage that and actually get them processed, and no access to training. So when it came to problem solving or any issues around something, maybe a volunteer not behaving appropriately, and I hate to ever say that volunteers don't behave appropriately, but if you had to then, how do any of us know what to do if we're not being given the tools or the processes to be able to know what to do further? Thanks, Daniel. So this is just a little bit of a diagram about the number of hours I can spend in a given week on volunteering. As I've said, my role is volunteer and apprenticeship strategy manager. So that makes it quite interesting for me in the fact that the majority of my time could be spent on volunteering. These hours would go up and down depending on what activities were going on at any particular time. But as you can probably see, far more hours. We do 35 hours a week at the Natural History Museum. If any of you have already added that up, there's over 40 hours there already. And that's without me doing the other part of my day job as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Vanessa. Yep, and this is just to confirm, this is all the hours per week on the previous software Vanessa was using.
Yeah, and if you haven't done it already, definitely go use that tool on the Better Impact website. It is really useful to make you suddenly realise where you're spending your time. So really beneficial thing to do. So a little bit about my software journey as well, where we were. As I've already explained, HR records were non-existent, inconsistent due to the lack of systems as well. Spreadsheets all over the place as well, not necessarily password protected. So we were a bit of a GDPR nightmare as well. We weren't accurately being able to report on the volunteers or the volunteer managers as well, which was another concern as well, that we didn't know exactly how many volunteers we had in the museum. So obviously a security issue as well. We didn't have emergency contact details for everyone. Another concern, duty of care around volunteers. How will we be able to ensure that we could support that? Because we didn't have necessarily detailed role descriptions. We didn't necessarily know what the work plans were. We didn't know when volunteers were coming in. We didn't know what hours that they were doing or anything like that. So it's very difficult to report on it as well. And again, expense forms, which was the worst thing as well, internally would go missing, which is the worst thing in the world, but it's got someone's bank details on. Whole GDPR issue from that perspective. And because expenses were going through our payroll system, it's the only option we could give them, volunteers were not necessarily being reimbursed until up to 6 weeks afterwards, which was not ideal either. So there was a number of options that we were worried about. Were volunteers contributing to the museum's objectives? Were they getting out of it what they wanted to, and what their purpose for being on site were? And there was no option to manage or record training, and it meant that from a security perspective, we weren't sure that everybody had a valid ID or actually we knew about them as far as the system was concerned. Next slide, please. Thank you. So why volunteer impact? We did look at a number of systems as well, did some due diligence, created a spreadsheet of all the things that we felt that we definitely needed the system to do going forward, and also the things that would be a nice to have, so a bit of a wish list as well. So we did this with every system that we looked at. Very grateful that in regards to volunteer impact that we actually got a demo of the system. I was able to play around with it ourselves so we could get familiar with it as well. But it came down to a number of things. One was cost. We're very aware that with some other systems that they used to charge you for administration access as well. One of the things that Natural History Museum had told me when I first joined the museum, we only have roughly about 30 people managing volunteers. In reality, we have over 100. So that was obviously a big concern for us, and the cost that might be in regards to admin costs as well. But it was also the fact that our HR system was actually increasing its costs, and therefore to have users on there was actually going to start to cost us as well. And that was quite an astronomical fee as well. So we looked at those systems as well, and looked at Better Impact. Better Impact obviously fitted on all of them as far as cost was concerned. The other thing as well that we wanted a new system for was easy sign up. We needed self-service. We needed volunteers to own their own data so they could update it, keep it up to date for us. That way we knew it was reliable as well. And that we could record key information. I'm not sure if any of you are in a similar situation to us, but we've got a number of funders now who insist on specific information if they're funding us about volunteers as well. So we've been able to now log that and record that on the system, and we can actually report on that and make that a lot easier. There's a basic e-learning tool that was a very fundamental piece to us as well, because the volunteers weren't able to access our volunteer management learning system. We actually was able to create a number of those videos and then transfer them and link them to the VMS volunteer impact, so that we could give those access to our volunteers as well. Plus, the beauty was that we could then record it and actually then see that the volunteers had actually undergone that training. And also because it's the Natural History Museum, probably not just because we're the Natural History Museum, but we wanted to be environmentally friendly. We wanted to get away from that paperwork. We didn't want to lose that paperwork. So GDPR became a big thing for us in that perspective. So online registration and self-service, having volunteers update their own data. Did we get resistance to start with? Yes, we got loads of resistance. Nobody wanted to do it. But once volunteers, we did a pilot, once the volunteers got into it and actually saw what was involved, they actually liked it. They could see that they could see updates as well by using the newsletters. So all these little extras came about after we started implementing as well. We had a central point of storage of data. So the beauty is now if we have to send out emails, let volunteers know what's going on, we can do that more effectively. Plus other volunteer managers could see what's being sent to their volunteers. We've actually now entered into a one trust relationship so that from a GDPR point of view, we tick all the boxes. That was the other thing as well from Better Impact, is the fact that they actually support the UK's GDPR requirements as well. And then we've got the qualifications and e-learning that we can monitor as well, that all the volunteers have got their access to training, including the fact that you can do reminders. So if you need to update your volunteers every year or every 2 years, you can actually put timeouts as well. So it actually then enforces that to actually appear on the volunteers training list again as well. So that's where we were. And that's what gave us the opportunity to go to Volunteer Impact. Thanks, Daniel. So the results, I'm sure Daniel can probably explain a little bit more about these as well, but the fact is, as you can see here, the fact is the time savings saved an awful lot of years over the course of the year, hours over the course of the year, which made my life a lot easier in the respect of being able to then manage my other parts of my day job as well. The value of the staff time saved, prior to my joining the museum, there were 2 people in my role that were actually managing volunteers. There's only myself now that oversee that, along with obviously locally. We had a new strategy that we implemented that would actually push back locally to manage, but with the system, it's made that a lot easier to now start to implement that. And it obviously has increased the cost that we've saved as well. So the return on investment on using the new software has, I'm essentially even probably more than 425%, because it has made life a lot easier as well. Okay, great. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for that, Vanessa. Right, I'm going to share my screen now and we'll cover a quick high-level overview demo for you. So what I'll show you now is just, like, as I mentioned, a quick high-level demo of Volunteer Impact. Just to begin with, just to let you know, we do have 2 different styles of or editions, let's say, of Volunteer Impact. One is Standard Edition and one is Enterprise Edition. Standard is where you're one organisation handling one database of volunteers. And we do have the Enterprise Edition, which is ideal if you manage different departments, different locations, and administrators in them different departments have to only see, interact with and communicate with their volunteers. So what I'm presenting with you now is the Standard Edition. So as you can see, when you log in as an administrator, this is your dashboard. This is what you're presented with. And as I've mentioned, this is a volunteer management software solution for you to manage your volunteers and an end-to-end process. So from the start of their journey right through to the end. And we've got these numbers in these circles represent the statuses of these volunteers. Okay, so I'll just quickly, while we're on the dashboard, go through these. So we've got the applicant status. So everyone that completes your application forms online, which I'll show you what they look like shortly, will land in your account as an applicant, and they will sit there until you determine where they go next, depending on your screening process. You then got the in-process status. So this is all applicants that are just under review, whether you're waiting to approve or even reject any qualifications or custom fields that come in. So it's great for management that it does keep them separated from the applicant status as well. Next one along is accepted. So these are all your current and active volunteers. And then inactive, I like to call this the leave of absence status. So these are all volunteers that have said to you that they're having a break from volunteering, whether it's medical, maternity leave, or just having a holiday, but at some point will return back to your program. You want to mark these volunteers as inactive, and you can choose whether that be short or long term. And lastly, we've got archived. So these are all volunteers that have, moved on, resigned, didn't start, or even rejected at the start as well. You can put them into the archived status, and you can obviously give them any of these particular reasons why they are archived. And just to let you know as well, for billing purposes, we only do invoice you for accepted and inactive volunteers. So we don't bill anyone that's going through the application process or is archived. So just to begin with, I'm actually going to show you what a public page looks like. So a public page is your advertising page. So you'll be able to brand this to your organisation's liking as well. You've got a banner at the top here. So I'm using my demo example, City Museum. You'll even be able to customise the colour of the tabs to match your company colours. But what this basically is a public page, an advertising page where you can showcase a news feed, which you'll be able to create. You'll be able to showcase your general interests, which are more like want ads. So the kind of fields of interest that applicants are interested in, whether that's guest services, special events, administration as well. And as I mentioned, this is all based on a museum. And you can also advertise your activities on here as well. If you choose to have them checked as public for advertising, they will be displayed on your public page. You'll also have a social media feed, which is backed up by Facebook and Twitter, which is now X. And for anyone that wants to apply to your organisation, they'll just click on fill in application form. Let's go on fill in application form. So as an applicant, I have to go through 2 steps in order to fill out an application form to join your organisation. So first of all, I have to register myself with what we call a My Impact page account. So a My Impact page account is a volunteer login portal. It's for the volunteer to use. On this My Impact page, they'll be able to self-schedule, so they can sign themselves up for any activities that you would have created as an administrator. They'll be able to log their hours and any feedback fields required as well. On top of that, they'll also be able to update their personal information. And all this information does feed back into the admin portal. Just to let you know as well, that is app-based. So the My Impact page is free to download on any Android or iPhone device and use on the go for your volunteers. So if I'm brand new, I'll just have to register with a username and a password, and then I'll go through to fill out your application form, which I've already got one. So it could be that a volunteer already has a My Impact page from where they previously volunteered with another organisation. If that's the case, they could just use just log in with their credentials already. There we go. So once I've created my Impact page, it's going to take me to an application form. So this is something you can create. Again, this is branded by your organisation. You'll be able to customise the colour of the tabs. So just give you an idea of what the application form is combined of. So there's a general availability chart you can use by default, which obviously the applicants can check boxes on their availability, Monday to Sunday, mornings through to nights. By all means, if you want to use your own kind of availability, you can use that via custom fields. I could just pick and choose of which general interests I'm interested in. You'll be able to add your qualifications needed on an application form. And the additional info is what we call the custom fields. So custom fields are like your customized data collecting questions. So these could be things if you need to gather, things like references, what languages can you speak, dietary requirements, emergency contact information, whatever you need to gather from an applicant, create that as a custom field. You can manipulate what type of answers you want for a custom field. Is it long text, short text boxes, date fields, drop down menus. We've got check boxes and also a file upload as well. So if you do need to gather something like a CV or proof of ID on someone applying, choose a file upload. That will give the applicant the opportunity to download a file. Once I've completed this, I will submit the application and I'm going to land in your Better Impact account automatically as an applicant. And it is from there you'll determine where they go next, again, depending on your screening process. Back to the dashboard, there is some alerts that will pop up, some system alerts. So it's good to know, depending on your permissions, obviously with qualifications and custom fields, you can set, there's 4 different permission settings. You've got private, which is great for EDI and sensitive information, which only the admin can see. You've got read only, read write with approval, and without approval. So anything with approval will come into the dashboard here under custom field approvals, and the same with qualification approvals as well. So it'll just be down to you as the admin just to go through them, approve or even reject them qualifications or custom fields. It's good to know that you can also add expiry dates to qualifications as well. So this is great for auditing, and it's just great for just keeping on track with your volunteers' qualifications. So when they're due to expire soon, it will flag up here, and that will just prompt you as an administrator to reach out to that particular volunteer to get them to renew that qualification if they haven't done so already. So hopefully they don't fall into this category of expired qualifications, which, as you know, may not make them eligible now for the role they're already contributing towards. You've got some other alerts here, hours approvals, volunteers on the clock. We've got a great feature on the app as well for the volunteers to use. It's called a time clock kiosk. So if you have a device at a place of work where they're volunteering, it's kind of like an online punching card, so they can check in, check out with either their username and password, or they can scan in using the QR scan code as well. Just some other features on the dashboard. Pin searches, I will come back to this shortly as well. Save reports, and we've got some kind of alerts here as well, just to let you know, system message. So we regularly do updates on the software, which all our members can take advantage of. When the next one's released, it will be up here as well. And you've got some account information now. So just to begin with, we're going to focus on these main icons at the top and also a volunteer profile. So I'm just going to start off with the configuration icon. This may log me out, I'm thinking. Oh, maybe it won't. So when you click on any of these main icons at the top, it does bring down all the subcategories here on the left-hand side. So for example, when you're brand new and you want to set up your Better Impact account, you probably want to focus on the branding. So where you can add your banner, where this will be displayed as we've seen on the application form, the My Impact page. Again, I'll show you what that looks like from the volunteers' perspective shortly, and the application form as well. So that would all be there for you to add your banner, the theme and content as well. This is where you can add your custom fields and your qualifications. So if I click on custom fields, configuration, profilization, custom fields. So when you do want to create all your custom fields, everything starts off as a blank canvas in your account. Here we go. You can even, what's really cool is that you can put all your, group them together. So for example, we've got an About You section. So what is your primary position that you're applying for today? Why do you want to volunteer? Example, city, museum, resume, driver's license. What languages can you speak? So grouped them all together. These are all the custom fields, and we've added the checkbox. Group information, there we go, we've got references, and so on. And like I say, there's a lot of admin use there as well, which will be set up private. And that's the same with qualifications. So click on qualifications. There we go, add your qualifications. You can have ranked or exact match with the same permissions. And obviously, as you can see, you can add your expiry dates as well. So back up to the top. Well, let's go to the people icon next. So when you want to do a quick search on a group of people, you can just click on the people icon, left-hand side. This is where you can add volunteers as well. So not only have you got the process where they'll apply online and they'll automatically land in your Better Impact account, you can have the option as well to add volunteers manually yourself. And that's the same with administrators as well. You've got unlimited administrators, by the way, we don't charge for that. But if you want to do a quick search on a group of people, just click the search tab here. You kind of be presented with this filtering page. So let's just do everyone that's accepted. Let's add a search criteria. So if you want to filter this search down, let's say by qualifications. So sorry, when you click on this drop-down menu, this is all the information you're presented with, which you can search through as well. So whether it's activity shifts, hours logged, date of birth, general availability, custom fields, contact information, qualifications. And click on the qualifications. So all your qualifications will pop up here. So I'm just going to do everyone that has a driver's license, for example, is equal to yes. Add and go. And there we go. 34 people or 34 volunteers were found, all accepted, that has a driving license. So it's just a great way of just pulling off these quick search reports as well. If you want to save this search, just click save, give it a name, you know, driver's license. What you want to do is check that box there that says pin search and save. And what you've done is you've created what I call a shortcut to your dashboard. Yeah, pin searches. So it's a cool feature where, as I mentioned, you just create a shortcut for that list. Here's some I've created as well. This updates in real time. And I'm going to show you a similar one to that in the communications feature next. So if we click on communications, so there's 3 main methods of communication within the software. That's email, texting, and you can do a mail out. You can do this in mass, filtered groups, or just to individuals. And that's the same with the texts as well. Just 2 things just to point out with the texting feature. It's only a one-way communication, so you can send texts, but your volunteers will not be able to reply. And secondly, all volunteers will have the option, if they do not opt in, to receive the SMS service. So if you are sending out a mass text, for example, probably back that up with an email, but some of them may not receive that text. And here we go. So if you want to send an email, click on send email, again from the left-hand side. This brings us to this similar filtering page. I'm just going to choose accepted. Now, if I just want to do a mass email out to all my accepted volunteers, all I need to do, I'll just check that box already, just press search. And there we go, 215 accepted volunteers were found. You can check any of these boxes on the volunteer's name if they don't need to be included. And then all you need to do is add the body of your email there. You can add images, attachments, images, links as well. You can even add like a first name and a last name placeholder. So when the recipient receives that email, it's a bit more personalized. It say things like, hi, Mary, hi, John, hi, Vanessa, for example. And what's really cool, and to save admin so much time, is that we do have an email template library as well. So you'll be able to create email templates. If there are emails you frequently use, whether it's on a weekly or monthly basis. So here's some we've created. So as it's a mass email, I'm going to do a monthly newsletter. And there we go. So there we've got the first name placeholder in place there. And there we go. We could just send it out just by a few clicks. Obviously, if you want to tweak this, change it up, you can. You can have a priority setting on the emails. You can have a read receipt, you can CC yourself in, add in the admin modules as well, if admins need to receive this, and then just send your email, and that's going to go out to all them 215 people. Now, if you want to filter this down, we're going to press add search criteria again. And I'm going to do availability. So let's say you just want to reach out to all your volunteers that work Saturdays or volunteer Saturdays and Sundays only. You've had a new opportunity pop up that's only for weekends. So you want to select general availability, select Saturday and Sunday, add and go. There we go, 28 people were found. And again, you can just repeat the process of putting in your email. And again, if this is a kind of a group of people that you generally or frequently communicate with, you don't want to keep making this search, just press save, give it a name, weekend availability, for example, pin search, save. And what you've done again is that you have created that pin search. These pin searches are unique to every administrator as well. So mine will be different to someone else, another administrators in your organization as well. And this all updates in real time. So someone joined after I made the weekend availability search and they only available at weekends, they'll automatically be added to this. And you can see just by the little symbols next to them of what they are, whether it's a search or an email. Okay, if we go along to the Assign tab, So it's good to know that you can keep on top of the schedule for your volunteers. So click on the calendar sign there. And this is where, because you can assign volunteers, whether you want to do that individually or in bulk, choice is yours. So I'm going to show you what this looks like from a calendar format as well. So I click on calendar. You see, I'll go over the month. There's a lot of red and blue. So the red meaning that all the activities taking place on that particular day are still vacant and probably need attention, right through to the blue, which means the minimum amount of volunteers has been confirmed. So you haven't got to worry about that too much. But let's have a look on the 1st of April. That looks quite red. Once you hover over the day, you can click on that day. And there we go, it brings up all the activities. Like I say, we've got a lot of activities taking place every day. This is a demo account. You may just have one or two. And you can see the ones that are flagged up red. These are the ones that need your attention. So if we click on accommodation room 1, you get another kind of filtering page here. So you can pick and choose what you like to search on to find volunteers that will be matched for this activity. Most likely something like qualifications and are available with no overlapping assignment. When you press search, all the volunteers that match your search criteria will pop up here. And you can assign them all. Just check that if you want to check them all, and they'll all be assigned to the activity. And while we're on the subject of activities as well, when you create an activity, that would be down on the configuration icon under activities. So you just click activities. You can give, you've got unlimited activities you can use. Similar to the custom fields, you'll be able to group these as well if you need to. So like we've got an administration category, boards and committees, training modules as well. So when you create activities, you can give them a schedule, whether it's recurring, like a set of shifts. You can have them disjointed, one time only, which is more for events, or just even unscheduled as well. So volunteers can sign up as of when they have some free time. And then, as I mentioned at the start, you can manipulate who sees activities based on qualifications. So you can either choose that setting or make it public. It's entirely up to you. And then we've got the reporting section. So it's good to know that you can report on pretty much anything and everything as long as you have that data tracked and recorded. So again, on the left-hand side here, to show you a few examples, hours by volunteer. This one seems to be a popular report. It's good to know that you can report over any date period as well. We're only in March, so I'm going to do last year. So let's do last year. Number of hours, view reports, and there we go. So it starts off at the top with the volunteer with the most hours, through to the bottom of the least, in a kind of chart format, and at the bottom shows you total hours, number of volunteers, average per volunteer as well. Let me show you an hours trend. These come in all different kind of forms, all these reports. So that one was a chart. This one's like a bar graph. Again, number of hours by month, number of volunteers with logged hours by month, and average per volunteer. And one of my favorites, I'll quickly show you, is the general profile, personal profile raw data report. So this is pretty much your own bespoke report. Pick and choose what you like to report on. So again, we're back to this kind of filtering page. I'm just going to choose accepted again. Press search. There's the results of all the people found. And then just underneath, you pick and choose what you like to put a report on. So by default, it will have the first and last name and the basic details. Pick and choose any other fields you might need. If you want to select any custom fields, you can do so. I'm just going to choose some random ones. Let's do references. There's your qualifications. General interests. Again, this would all be all your info. General availability. Just do Monday through to Friday. You can do hours logged as well. Once you've done that, press view profiles. There we go. There's your report. You just need to just move across sideways to see all that information. And what's really good, being in this report section here, any of these reports, you can export to Excel and CSV as well. So if you need to pull that information out, Better Impact, you can do that as well. So what I'm going to quickly show you now is the volunteer profile. So in this top right corner here in the search bar, just click on the little orange person and start to type the name of your volunteer. So I'm going to use Veronica. Vanessa's our co-host. So there we go, Veronica Smith. She's my demo volunteer. Once you click on that, as you start typing the name, by the way, it does match that name, so you've got to put in the full name all the time. There we go. This is Veronica's profile. So you can see, you can upload a profile picture of the volunteer. You can see a quick snapshot of all her contact information, history, next shift, and so on. There's a bar graph showing you all her contributions in hours over each month. You can hover over the month to see the hours contributed. There is a pie chart showing the total hours contributed by which activity. And we have a really cool feature called badges. So you can reward badges to your volunteers, the signs of recognition, and lifetime achievements, such as hours, hours logged, anniversary milestones, qualifications, and feedback fields as well. Now, if we go across these tabs here, if you just want to communicate with Veronica, you can do so here. You can send her an email. And on these sub-tabs at the bottom here under communications, I can send her a text. I can send her a personal message. This will show up on the My Impact page. There's an email history, and you can do a note log as well. So all notes you make on each volunteer, you can log on the profile. Only the admins will see this. You can assign Veronica to any of your activities. You can see her schedule. She has up and coming. Her hours. You can just pull some reports on just Veronica. You can add her to a committee. So a committee is a cool feature. If you create these committees, you're just creating a group of volunteers that they can communicate with each other via email in this group as well. And then just on here, these sub-tabs under the main, you can see all of Veronica's contact information. See her custom fields. So this is all the filled in custom fields. Her qualifications. Her general interests. General availability, and there's a miscellaneous tab. This is great if you do need to change the status of that of Veronica. You know, she's let you know she's going on leave for a while. You may want to make her inactive. Right, I know we're short on time, so I'm just going to quickly browse over what it looks like from the volunteer's perspective. Vanessa, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see that screen okay? Yep, brilliant, thank you. So yeah, this is the My Impact page, obviously the desktop version. So this is what the volunteer will see. So when they log in, again, this is all branded by your organisation. You're going to see a lot of similar information we just saw from Veronica's profile on the admin portal. So there's her badges. There's an image gallery, which is backed up by Flickr feed. We've got the social media feeds here. There's that personal message. So if you just wanted to say thanks to Veronica for coming in lastminute.com to help out an activity, it will be displayed here and only to Veronica. We have a separate news feed. Other than what's on the public page, you'll be able to add a news feed on the My Impact page. So all volunteers will see this. We'll have a mission statement as well, so just a little bit about your organisation. The bottom right here, file section. So you have a document library where you can store things like waiver forms, policies, volunteer handbooks, for example, and you can have the option to display them on the My Impact page. If you do that, then all your volunteers will have access to them files down here. Moving back up, if I want to sign myself up for an activity, I can see this in either a list or a calendar format. I'm just going to quickly show you what it looks like on a calendar format. It's a bit easier on the eye for me. And there we go. So all I need to do is click on an activity I'm interested in. You'll see some information pop up here about the activity, and I'll just sign up there, and I'm assigned to the activity. I can see my own schedule. That's everything I have up and coming. If I scroll to the bottom, I can even see this in a calendar format, which I can also download and print off if I want to. If I want something to put on my fridge, for example, I can do so. Now this tab, the hours, this is where I log my hours. So let's say I've come back from an activity, let's say information booth attendance. Once I've selected the activity, I just need to put in the date, the hours and minutes I've contributed, and the feedback fields. So I didn't mention too much about feedback fields, but that's something you'd be able to create. If you apply them to the activity, they will pop up here and your volunteer will be prompted to relay feedback on that activity. And then there's a reports. This is just for my own, as a volunteer to see my own reports. Contact tab. This is if I do need to reach out to a an administrator. And then I've got the my profile tab here. So I can see my contact information, all the same information we saw from the volunteer profile. So additional info. Loading up here. There we go. And another feature we have, and I think Vanessa mentioned this, is our e-learning modules as well. So you can create online learning content for your volunteers to take. They'll be able to take these from their My Impact page. They could look something like this. So we've created one. This is on the cusp of COVID, the 30-second hand washing routine. So we just added GIFs in this one, but you can add images, videos as well, backed up by Vimeo and YouTube. Add as much info as you like, set a little, let's say a test or a quiz with some multiple choice questions, and you can affiliate these with qualifications as well. Excellent. All right, let's go back to the slides. So now that you've heard Vanessa's story and learned a little bit about volunteer impact, I'll now share with you Better Impact's background. So our story actually began with Better Impact, actually started by Fluke. So our CEO, Tony's passion project of building a web-based volunteer management software solution for a residential hospice he actually founded, birthed the beginnings of a global We're Here to Help company. So we're 20 plus years old. We're a small company, but we have a global impact. We have offices located here in UK, Canada, USA, and Australia. We have customers all over the globe. And we specialize in volunteer management software, volunteer impact, but we are also providers of donor, client, and member solutions that also integrate with volunteer impact. And lastly, and mainly, we're Here to Help company.